Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're going to be installing the new front struts on our 2015 Yukon Denali. This is the same for the 2015 through 2020. These are from Arnott, a very good brand. I got an aftermarket brand that did not work, and it was a nightmare. They didn't line up. They were different lengths, even though it said it was for the Denali. So this brand I was very happy with. They came in, they looked great, they went right in. They are not side specific, so you just buy two of them, and the passenger side and the driver's side are the same part number. So anyway, we'll go ahead and install these today, and I'll put a link in the video description where you can purchase these. The factory ones you have to buy bare and then use a spring compressor tool, which is very dangerous to switch over the spring and everything. This is the only one I was able to find that's actually pre-assembled. So make sure the car is in park and the parking brake's on. We're going to also add a wheel chock so it doesn't roll. So the first thing we're going to do is come in and we're going to have to remove the wheel. So we're going to go ahead and lift with the jack. And we like to lift on the frame here towards the back and put the jack stand towards the front. Next, using our 22mm socket, we're going to go ahead and remove all of the lug nuts and then remove the wheel out of the way. Next, we're going to take a 15mm wrench. And we're also going to be using a 15mm socket at the same time. And we're going to come in here and find our sway bar. So we're going to go ahead and put our wrench on the top of this to hold it still so the nut doesn't just spin. And then from the bottom, we're going to use the other 15mm socket to loosen it up. So we're not going to remove it entirely. We just want to loosen it. So don't take the nut off. Just get it loose. That gives us a little bit more play. Makes it easier to get the strut out. You'll most likely be doing both the front struts, so loosening the sway bar on the other side as well with the same method, 15mm box end wrench and another 15mm on the bottom, is a good idea, and that'll just give you a lot of play. But again, don't remove it all the way, just loosen it. Now there's two 15mm bolts here for the bottom of the strut. So as we come to the bottom here, you'll see those two here, and so we're going to go ahead and just remove both of those. And since we will be unplugging the Magnaride shocks, it's a good idea to loosen up the battery cable to 10mm and just remove it and put it out of the way, the negative cable. I also like to put a blanket down and basically just lay down here and look down onto the top of the strut. And that gives you a very good access here. So we're going to go ahead and find this that's coming off the top of the strut for this electrical connector. And we're going to go ahead and on the very end, you see that there is a gray tab. So with that gray tab, we're just going to pull it out, and it's just a locking tab. And now we can just pull the plug off. Now it's also held on by a zip tie, so we're going to go ahead and just cut that with a pair of cutters. Now coming in back into the wheel well here, you'll see these little clips that just push down on the top of the studs. So all we're going to do is take a pair of pliers or a screwdriver, and if you just push up from the bottom, they pop right off of the stud. So here's one, here's another one. This one also had a smaller harness clamp on it, so we're going to go ahead and just push that up as well. Now from the top again, we can move these out of the way, and we have perfect access to our 18mm nuts here that we need to take off the studs. So with an 18mm socket, we're going to go ahead with an extension as well, and we're just going to remove all three of these nuts off of the studs. Now for one of the bolts, it really helps if you have this little U-joint, and so this is what it looks like. I'll put a link in the description where you can get one if you don't have one, but that's helpful. Okay, now from the bottom, we're just pushing at the base of the strut away, and it will pop down. And now we're going to drop the strut just out of here. Watch that electrical connection, and once it gets to this point, we're going to actually pull it back up through the top and towards you out of that little wishbone suspension there. The new struts come with the hardware already on, so we're just taking our 15mm here and removing it so that we can use it. Just make sure you don't try to disassemble this strut, otherwise it will explode, okay? There's a lot of pressure under it. We're only taking off the nuts that we're using for our installation. Now I was very happy with the new struts from Arnott. They actually lined up perfectly. I got a different aftermarket set that I purchased. They didn't line up, they were all off, the length was different, and I had to return them and it was a nightmare. I waited a full year until researching and everything came up with these. And the plug is the same, everything, it went right into place, so I'm very happy with these new struts. Now, if you want to transfer over the old hardware, you can just get a flathead screwdriver and pry up and then pry down, and you'll just kind of wiggle this back and forth, and the old hardware will pop off. It just takes a little wiggling to get in and out. Now, they did include other hardware, so I'd assume you'd be able just to use the bolt, and then the new hardware that it comes in the bag is just the 2 nuts with this. If you have pried on the old hardware enough, then you can put it in the vise just to kind of crunch it back and get it tight again. And then to put it back on, it's very simple. You'll just line it up, put the screwdriver right through the center of the hole, and as you push it upward, it'll click into place.
Now we're going to bring in our new strut. We're just going to come right back through the top how we took it out. And as soon as we get it angled in, we're going to go back up to the top. Go ahead and feed that electrical connector through the hole and then line up your 3 holes. And now at this point, it helps to push down on the wheel and you can slide the shock absorber into place.
So here's another view of that. Just kind of push down on the lug nut, be careful, and watch your fingers as you're pulling this into place. Don't get it caught in that wishbone. I did last time and actually broke my nail. My fingernail turned black till it grew back in right there, so be very careful. But once you get it into place, you'll be able to see that the nuts are up here in the top. We're going to just slide them on and get them into place, but not tight yet. And this is a good time to put a little bit of Loctite on these studs, so as we put our nuts on them, it's already ready to go.
So get it lined up here at the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and put our 2 15mm bolts back through. So we're going to put a nice little bead of Loctite on this so that they don't come loose. And then we're just going to drive these up through the bottom. Now a little Loctite on the nuts for the top of the strut. And we're going to just come back in and reinstall all 3 of those. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put our connector plug back together. So it clips back in and we put our lock back into place. So that's what it should look like. And now we're just going to go ahead and push down all these tabs. There was that one harness one as well there. Just push those down. And we're just going to reattach this where we cut it, and we can put a new zip tie on it. And now we have our 15mm wrench on the top and our 15mm socket on the bottom. We're just tightening our sway bar back down.
Now, as for the passenger side, it's the same process, and it looks a little crowded in here, but it's actually a straight shot if you get an extension with your 18mm socket on it. I was able to get to all 3 of these. Same thing, we're going to pop those clips up, and honestly, if you come in from the side by the wheel well, you can get in here pretty easily. So I do a lot of the work through there. Same with the connector plug, it's right in here, so you have good access from the bottom. You can try it from the top too if you want, but we just got to pull that gray tab out again, remember, and once you pull the tab out, then you're going to push down on that tab. So again, here's what it's going to look like. Pull the tab out and then see how you push down on it, and that's how you separate it off the top there. So good access from the wheel well. Now, since I did use the old hardware and I had these extra nuts, I just decided to lightly put them on. I put some blue Loctite down. I'm not tightening them down and messing up anything here, but just getting them on there nice and snug. And I just figure it's kind of like a second backup here to make sure that nothing comes loose, and I have the nuts anyway, right? So anyway, that's optional. You don't have to do that. That's just kind of what I did with the extra hardware.
Okay, we're going to replace the wheel, put the lug nuts back on, and remember to tighten these down in the star pattern, or every bolt across from each other. Now we're lowering the car just enough so the wheel's touching the ground, not all the way yet. And we're going to go ahead, and for this vehicle, it's 145 foot-pounds, so check your specific application. And again, we're torquing these using that star pattern, using every lug nut that's across from each other. And go ahead and reconnect your negative battery terminal. Okay, and you're all set. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please check the video description. I have a playlist with all the other videos that I've done on this Yukon. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.